Yeah, it's more like afternoon, but that's cool.
Yeah, it depends
Semantic.
on where you are.
Yeah, that's true.
Depends on where you are.
Hey guys, anybody out
Hey,
there
everybody.
watching? My name is Kerri Lewis, and we are coming at you with Ms. Michelle Barone and stripped down healing from the illusion. Hi.
Yes, healing from illusion. Illusion. So does that make us illusionists? Or we're just living in a world of illusion?
We're definitely living in a world of illusion, a separation from God. I actually wrote down something. So, first off, do you want to share with people what you do?
Oh, yeah, that would be good. So I'm Michelle Barone, Moksha Grace Coaching, and I do emotional liberation coaching, meaning that I help you take that deep dive into spaces of your internalness to shine the light on those dark spaces.
Shine the light.
So your emotions aren't controlling you. You are actually controlling your emotions. People have much more control than they think they do.
Well, we create our reality, right? But we're not taught that, and so that seems really far fetched to a lot of people, especially. I'm cautious to just throw that out willy nilly because having experienced, multiple rapes and addiction and all the things I've been through, had somebody told me when I was in deep suffering that I created this experience, that
Yeah.
could have felt really, really hard.
Yes.
And uh definitely
Absolutely.
not coming from a place of compassion, but now that I have a very strong visceral understanding, the reality is we do create our experience, and our thoughts are what create our experience.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there, my name's Kerri Lewis, and I go by the title addiction and mental health recovery coach and speaker. I have a hard time with that these days because I think it's just such a limiting um description of how I show up in the world. I really do at the end of the day show up as love. And when you can show up from a place of self-love, then you can truly show up as love for others. And when you love somebody, right? Then all the things that you do, Michelle, with your clients, I do as well. And it
Mhm.
helps people feel safe and
Yes.
brave and supported as they start to strip down their old belief systems, their old habits, and then really work to discovering who they are outside of who we have just operated as because that's what we knew.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good point. I was working on a list of manifestations this morning and looking at that and what have I manifested in my illusion in my world. And yes, going back to your point as far as control, and so in my perspective, it's controlling the emotional response that you have to a situation. So no, I don't know that we necessarily can control if somebody's going to come towards us and do something harmful to us. That's not it. But we can control how we respond to it. And then
Sure.
of course there's that deeper part of what is this supposed to teach me, but that's like advanced and not everyone's ready to hear that, and that's cool. We I think we both as coaches meet people where they are,
Yeah.
uh,
Sure.
and work with where they are to get them to that next level, whatever that next level is for them.
Yeah.
um,
And
but
and
yeah.
I will always go back to telling people I got you like a fish. So I do meet people where they are, but I very quickly dial into um whatever it is I'm being called to dial into to really start to
Mhm.
force you to examine the ways in which you're showing up in the world and ask yourself whether or not they serve you. But something I want there's a couple things I want to mention. First, I've said this before, I'm a huge proponent of visuals. And the
Yes.
reason why, right, guys, is if we have this even very obscure, broad idea that we create our reality and that what we think we create,
Hmm.
then we are responsible for at least starting to be aware of what it is we think, right? Because
Mhm.
if we know our thoughts are creating our experience, then we really want to be aware of that. But what happens if you are triggered? What if you are emotional? The
Mm.
problem with that is your emotional response system is down here, your cognitive response system is up here. You're not necessarily going to remember, right, to choose a different thought because you're
Right.
stuck in this spin. So you're not thinking clearly.
Right.
So for that reason, I'm a big fan of visuals and I carry these along with me, but I also have lots of visuals. Yeah.
I've
Um,
started my stack.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm covered with visual reminders and tattoos as well. But something I wrote today while in spiritual study that I want to share with you,
Mhm.
and I think our audience could really profoundly benefit from. I've had a lot of people tell me, I don't even know what you mean when you say you're an ego. Right. And for
Mm.
me, I've always equated it to I'm trying to control situations. I'm operating from fear. If I'm in fear, I'm in ego. But I read a definition today and I was like, oh, okay,
Please
cool.
share.
I am. So, all that ego, also known as edging God out or edging the universe out,
Mhm.
is an idea. So, it's the belief that it is possible that things could happen to us without us creating them, without our will. And thus, without this will, the creator without this will, we separate ourselves from what we are, right? So essentially
Mhm.
ego is we don't recognize that we have free will. We get to experience anything and everything we want while having this human experience. Um, but the minute we identify with, dare I say, being victimized by our experience or not having control or not being able to um shift perspective of the situation, that's when we're in ego. Because the reality is there's nothing that we experience that is not a result of our own thinking.
And it's so interesting because when you think of the definition like that, unless you go deeper, and I think you're referring, or you probably got that from a book that we're both reading, or that I've started to read, and you're
Of
a
Course in Miracles.
yes, definitely. Um, but when you say it like that, my first response is, ooh, people are going to think the opposite because it kind of sounds opposite, but it doesn't. And so when, you see, if you don't have control, it's because there's a step behind that. There's a piece behind that, because if we're all interconnected and we're all connected to source, God, then anything outside of love is thinking that we are outside, which means that we're egoic.
Yep. And so I'm going to give you an example of what that could look like cuz this happened to somebody I love immensely. Love this person is one of my ride or dies, okay? Applied for a new job, promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Before they even applied for it, looked at me deadpan and said, "Well, I'm not going to get it because I never get it, and this is the way it's." And I'm like, "Well, don't put that out there. That's not. No, don't do that." What happened? Person didn't get the job, the role. But I've watched this play out several times in this person's experience. And every single time, this person believes before they even put themselves out there for this job, they're not going to get it. So they're creating their reality by
Mm-hmm.
saying, well, I'm not going to get it. But then they go out for this. So it's like repeating this cycle of not getting what it is they want because they're literally telling themselves that they're not going to get what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is ego because you're like convinced that you can't get it, but you're also making it so you can't get it.
Well, because they are getting what they
Oh
put
yeah,
out.
yes,
It might not be what they want, but they're getting what they put out. I was reading I was listening to an Audible something last week, and I don't remember. I'll have to get it if anyone is interested. But the guy was telling a story about our minds being like a farm, and we know I have my little farm, and you plant seeds. And so this one farmer took nightshade and planted it, which is poisonous, and then
I read
planted,
that book.
right? And then
Yep,
planted corn, let's just say. I don't remember the two, but they both grew because the land said, whatever you plant, I will grow. And
yep,
it grew the poison as well as the food because it knows no different.
yeah,
And that's exactly about our thoughts and what we put out there, and that's the key to manifesting. Is whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. And that's
hmm,
why you have to be careful with your words matter. You have to be careful with your actions matter. What you do is good. Reciprocity, there's all these universal laws, it's going to come back. And so what you put out, you're going to get back. And what you say, your mind and your heart are going to believe, because again, it doesn't know the difference between illusion and reality.
yeah, yep. I agree, but it's also I think it's so important that people know it's such hard work to be aware of your thoughts.
Well, wait, hold on.
Particularly in the beginning.
Change the words, because words matter, right? So is it hard, or is it at first challenging to get into the flow of it?
Well, I mean, that's a really, really good point. I I will tell you from my own experience, it felt arduous as hell.
Mhm.
It just did.
Absolutely.
So, and I say that because you're right. You're right. You're right. And you're right. But I'm also looking at the person who just didn't get the job
Right.
because they're putting out those thoughts to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, it is work. I don't, and
It
it's so
is.
funny because I listen to the language of A Course in Miracles, of course, and I've studied a myriad of things. Another really amazing book that I am aligned with is the Tao Te Ching by Lao
Mm-hmm.
Tzu. That one really resonates, and then of course the Bhagavad Gita. And I've read a lot, right? Um, but but the reality is maybe not. It's not hard. It takes effort. It takes a
Yes.
lot of effort and consistent,
Yes.
repeatable effort, which is why, if you look back to the Bible and what we talk about when Jesus had what disciples were what? They were disciplined. And
Mm-hmm.
if discipline feels yucky to you, think about it from a place of devotion to self. But
Right.
you have to create this is a non-negotiable for me. For anybody who's looking
Mm-hmm.
to shift their experience in any way, you have got to create devotions or disciplines around whatever it is you're looking to achieve. And if it is manifestation and I really do think that they should be in conjunction, healing from the illusion, right?
Right. Right.
Then you need to be dogmatic in
Mm-hmm.
the way in which you think.
So
Dogmatic.
being very, so yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to change that word to mindful, being mindful about what you're putting out there, the words that you're saying that are coming through, what you're thinking. I mean, it is, like you said, it is work when you get started. And the more you do it and you work out, you're badass. The more you flex your muscle about this, the easier it comes. But you can't just go out there and start lifting 100 pounds. You have to start small. Start somewhere, but just start. Start with one better thought for your day. When you get up in the morning, don't go, oh God, here I go again. Like, don't wake up like that. Think more like, I'm awake. My eyes are opening. That's good. I can stand up. I can walk. Like, start so general and so
Tiny.
almost ridiculous, right? I'm blinking. I'm breathing. Be grateful. Just be in gratitude. Start there. And
Yeah.
then start working your way up to the more advanced ways of being mindful.
Well, I think that highlights the point that I was asked a question by somebody recently about, well, they shared with me that gratitude caused them anxiety because the things they were grateful for caused them anxiousness.
Hmm.
For me, do
Mm-hmm.
you know I started? And I mean, I was seeped in addiction when I started my gratitude practice. I literally started being grateful for my hot cup of coffee and a hot shower, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
know I've shared this before. Or being grateful that the wind is blowing on my skin amidst the sun. Or, right, it doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't, it really should actually be things that you're not super attached to.
Right.
Because if you're attached to it, what is that open up the door for? The fear of
A
loss.
fear of loss. Right.
It's right, because we have an attachment to something. And I was thinking about this the other day because I visualize, like, I love the Mercedes Benz that I'm going to be driving, right? Love it. But I'm like, I'm not attached to it. I
Mm-hmm.
really am not. Like, when I get it, I get it. And somebody was, I think it was my daughter, was like, "Would you let me drive it?" Yeah, I would, because it really, at the end of the day, it is a material thing, and if
Right.
it's not within me, I can cultivate joy like that. But
Mm-hmm.
if I have this belief or like craving for it, or if it's an external thing that I could lose,
Yeah.
then that opens the door for suffering.
Right.
And so when you're looking to start a gratitude practice, don't start with the, if you struggle with anxiety or depression, don't start your gratitude practice with things that could make you have more anxiety or feel depressed at the idea of losing them. A good example would be my kids, right? When I struggled with severe
Mhm.
anxiety, I had this constant overwhelming fear that my kids would die, and right, like, it would, this, I would immediately
Yeah.
spin into suffering because I would go through
Absolutely.
the experience of, like,
Absolutely.
just lost my kid. But if I started with, oh, I really enjoy the sun. Well, I mean, I never really concerned myself for whether the sun was gonna explode or what not. I mean, it could, but, it didn't
Well,
cause me anxiety to
right.
potentially lose it, and that's how I built and cultivated gratitude.
So let's throw out some very general gratitudes that to help people come along that have never tried this. So you said the sun. I can tell you I absolutely love my moments and I'm grateful for those moments of sitting and watching the clouds pass by. Just playing with the clouds and seeing what I can see and going, "Oh, look, a dragon. Oh, look, a flower." Oh, just like silly, like going back to my childhood and watching clouds go by.
Yeah.
What about
Um,
you?
oh god, there's so, I mean, I'm very, like, I get lost in the weeds in nature, so I would say anything but the color black.
Mm,
I mean, black and skulls. If I see a skull, I'm immediately a kid in a candy store. I'm like, oh my god! Even if it's the ugliest damn skull, like, I have a very particular taste around skulls that most people, like, really, you're bougie about skulls. Yes, I am.
I,
Okay,
I,
I don't like Day of the Dead skulls. They can't be too masculine, scary, but they
mm-hmm.
can't be too soft and girly. Like, I get very excited when I find a perfect skull. In fact, Gemma found this huge, gorgeous, oh, what was it? It was some crystal that I love, and I can't believe I can't, it's a purple crystal. What's a purple crystal?
Amethyst.
Yes, amethyst skull, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm in love." But
I,
anyway,
I have a unicorn
that is
purple
so funny.
skull.
I
Um,
love it.
yes, skulls and black. I agree with you. I think black is amazing. For me, black means uh, the beginning of all things. A
Hmm.
lot of people, they like black because they look good in black. Or what. I look at black and I say it's the beginning of all things because didn't everything come from the dark?
I look at why do I just like black. I don't have
Oh
a
my
good
gosh,
reason. I just
I like
like
that.
black. It's very universal. I can wear anything I want and it just is I like black. But anyway, we digress. But it is
Yes.
strictly on healing from illusion. Not that I don't really care that we stay on topic of anything. But I do want to touch upon something that came up with a client today, right before
Hmm.
this show. What do you do to
Hmm.
teach your clients to start to cultivate their intuition? Because I know
Mm.
that if you haven't honored and listened to your intuition,
Hmm.
right? It's not that it's not there, but it's so drowned out that it's like a whisper. And it is truly your intuition that is spirit. It's like your it's the core of you who you are. And when you trust that, you will
Hmm.
never go wrong.
Yeah. So I love this. I'm so glad you brought it up. So it's all about trusting yourself. And it's about tuning in and giving yourself space to recognize what is coming up for you. So, a lot of times I'll ask my clients when they're unsure of a decision, where are you feeling it in your body? Is it your head? Is it your heart? Is it your stomach? A lot of people will go, oh, good, stomach, because that's my intuition, but that's gut and that can be fear. So, you have to tap into it even deeper and go, okay, is this fear? Or is this intuition? And you have, that everyone, oh, it's a gut feeling, but is it? Is it a gut feeling from fear or is it a gut feeling from love? And so one of the exercises I'll challenge a client that's just tapping into it and starting out is either go to a restaurant or at a four-way crossing in your car, but let's say a restaurant, and look at the menu and just glance and pick the first thing that your eyes pick up. And that's what you order for the day. And feel into it. How does it feel to order that? And then go with that experience. If it's not what you wanted, then now you know that feeling that you tapped into was not the right one and you want to go a different way. Similar to coming to a four-way crossing. If you come to a four-way crossing, do I go right? Do I go left? Do I go straight? Feel into it. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel heavier? If you think about going right or left or straight, go with the one where you feel lighter. Always go with what makes you lighter, not heavier.
Yeah.
So that's how I
Well,
start them off.
I always say, what brings you joy? And
Yeah.
like, and where do you experience resistance? Now
Hmm.
here's the thing. In full transparency to whoever's watching, I am so tapped into my intuition now that I even to remember not is hard for me. Like it really is. And truthfully, I can't think about not doing something
Hmm.
that feels like I'm enjoying. And I'll give you a really good example.
Hmm.
So I made a commitment to a new client to
Okay.
help them with their resume, right?
Hmm.
And I was it was in this call. So I it came from love. It did because I love this client. And a week went by and I still hadn't opened the resume. I'm like, what's up with that? And every time resistance, resistance. I didn't judge myself, but I'm like, that's interesting. I'm not going to open. So 2 days ago, baby, I'm sitting in meditation and I had like this way insight. Kerri, you promised yourself a year or so ago that you don't want to do stupid corporate paperwork like that. You just don't like it. You would rather hire somebody
Hmm.
who likes that crap, but you're not going to do it. Right?
Right.
as soon as I had that, like the release was there. So now this is where I tell people to
Mm-hmm.
start to listen to their intuition. A lot of people would say, well, I made a commitment to her and I'm a coach and I made this commitment and I got to do this. Not me. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. Do. Make a video. Hey, committed. Don't really like that. Happy to help you in this, and this. But when it comes to paperwork, I won't even do it for myself. So I can't do it for you.
Right.
Boom. Sent it. I was like, I'm free.
You're being authentic. You're being completely authentic
Right.
to yourself and to what you said and promised yourself that you would do or not do.
But here's the thing. We are in everything changes moment by moment, and I think this is where people get so hung up. It's honestly why I'm having a hard time saying I'm an addiction and mental health recovery coach now. At one point that was really, really true, and I still love working with people in addiction and who are working on their mental wellness. However, like, it just to me does not surmise even closely to how I show up in the world, because I do show up as love, and in that unconditional love, I can meet anybody where they're almost anybody where they're at and work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it's business coaching or whatever, not that I want to. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But moment by moment, we're constantly shifting. So what felt good
Right.
for me 2 weeks ago, it really did feel good. I wasn't saying it from a place of just trying to appease this person. No longer felt good. But so often we get stuck in this, well, I got married, so I have to stay in it.
Mm-hmm.
I agreed to work at this job, so I'm going to stay in it. Whatever it is. And when we don't listen to
Right.
what feels icky, we're not listening to our intuition. And when we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to reason and convince ourselves why we shouldn't listen to our intuition, that's where it starts to get quieter. It's not that you won't have it, you absolutely will, but your thinking mind is going to try to convince you of all the reasons why, because your intuition will inevitably cause you to grow and expand. And what does that do? That means you have to step outside your comfort zone. It means you have to face your fears. It means you have to do things that you haven't done and be messy, and there's no roadmap, and that can be really hard.
And here's the thing, and you and I both have experienced this. If you do not listen to your intuition and you do not follow the path you're being guided on, inevitably, however, it's going to play out in whatever time period, you will be forced to do whatever it was that your intuition was suggesting you do, but now you don't get to control how it happens, and that's when it becomes messy. That's
Yeah.
when it becomes where something blows up in your face. That's when it becomes something that you can't, you can put out there what you want. You can
Yep.
ask, right? You should always ask and it is given. Ask and step back, follow your intuition, but detach from the outcome, and just trust and be patient that it will happen.
But it takes being aware, and here's the thing, guys. I really believe we're all exactly where we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And I really believe we live in a perfect universe. I do. And so if you're in a place, so somebody else I love dearly was just let go from a job. And I see this as a beautiful opportunity for them to work on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not there yet. And
Mm-hmm.
they're in a place of feeling like not recognizing and taking ownership of their part in what transpired, and really not in a place where they want to dig in and do the work, and that's okay. And I can love this person exactly as they are and have no expectations of them.
Right.
I can be aware that they could do things um that would help them shift how they experience their life, but that's not for me to say. And unless they come to me, I just witness it and say, I'm going to love you. I'm going to sit and
Mhm.
love you. And I think that is something that we as coaches really also have to recognize,
Yep.
because I see a lot of coaches trying to push people to do the work or to take action when they're not ready, and that doesn't, it's not going to help. And then all you're going to see is more suffering and angst because they weren't ready for that growth, and
Right.
then they fall backwards, you know.
Right. And it's a frustration for the coach. It's a frustration for the person because they feel put upon or pushed. It's like when you say that, I get the vision of, leading the horse to water, but then shoving the horse's head underwater and forcing it to drink, and then like potentially drowning the horse. Like, no one wants to do that. So
Yeah.
stop trying to be God and just allow the person to come to that. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general, the coaches that do that, it's not your place to force something. If they're not ready, they're not ready. When I left corporate, the best thing my husband told me was get your ass out in the nursery and start planting. There was absolutely nothing else to do but just plant these seeds and these little cuttings, these trimmings, and just do it the way that he said. I knew nothing about it. It was completely something new to me. I was grounding. I didn't know any of that at the time. I wasn't thinking that way. He had enough wherewithal to tell me to go do that and suggest it. It got me out of bed in the morning, but I had to give myself some grace. I had to give myself some healing time.
Yeah.
And that's what I would suggest anybody that has just gone through some kind of a loss. You're going through grief, and it's okay. Grief is going to cloud what you're doing, what you're feeling. Don't even make decisions right away, because if you do, it's going to be from a place of lack and from grief and from fear. Give yourself a little space to feel it, just come to terms with it. And when you feel calm and ready, then you start progressing forward. Then you take the steps or you reach out. And the people that love you, just be with them. Don't push them and force them to do something they're not ready to do yet.
Yeah. Which is very, I mean, that is a practice within itself, you
Yes,
know.
it's
You know,
patience,
I'm my
patience.
kids tell me, they're like, "Mom, you're like the most lenient mother ever." I really am. They didn't want to go to school. I'm like, okay, don't go to school. But we have 10 absences. Okay, don't go to school. Like, and the reason why is I truly believe we all have to learn to trust ourselves. And how do we learn to trust ourselves? We fall down. We
We
get
fall down.
scraped.
Oh,
We burn our hand on the stove. And you know, too often, particularly in parenting, I said this, a client called me a couple weeks ago. His child lost a stuffed animal and was in deep, I mean, was immensely struggling with this because it's a young child and stuff. And my client was in angst. I've looked everywhere, Carrie. I can't, like, what do I do? I don't want to lie to her, but blah, blah, blah. And I said, too often we can't sit with our children and their suffering.
yeah.
We can't. So we try to control. We try to say, well, girls, if you miss so many absences, the school might not promote you to the next level, or right. And that's just fair. Or,
Mhm.
well, girls, what am I going to look like if my girls don't go to school and blah, 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 right? And as a result, we don't teach our kids, one, that we do experience suffering. That is part of this human experience. In fact, suffering is what helps you grow and evolve and expand. Um, but two, I love you so much that I'm not going to take away your suffering, but I'm going to bear witness to it. I'm going to sit
Yeah.
with you. I'm going to love you while you're going through it. And I said to my client, I'm like, I know it seems hard because your child's really young, but what a gift it is that she can realize that her dad can just sit here and comfort her and just say, I can't take away the fact you lost your stuffed animal, but I can sit here and I can
Hmm.
love you while you're sad.
And what a unexpected gift to learn so young that more will come. More
Yep.
will come. Loss isn't the end of everything. It's
No,
just
it's
the
the
end
it's
of
the
that
end to the
relationship or
beginning.
whatever right now. Right. And then there's a new beginning. And yes, I think that we, and we in today's world, we, the parents of today's world, try to protect our children from so much that they don't know how to process their emotions, that they don't know how to do, simple or process simple downfalls, let's
Yeah.
just say, and we're doing them a disservice. And it's not my circus, not my monkey. Yet as a parent we go, but it is my circus, they're my children, they're my monkeys. But it's their journey. But it's their journey, and you can't control their journey.
And not only that, they're not, I mean, at the end of the day, they're individuals. We
Hmm.
birthed them, but that's just about it. Like, I truly believe that my kids are not my kids. My kids are their own spirit, their own soul, having gone like a journey that they need to have to grow.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting to have that lens. It's because a lot of people would look at the way in which I parent as tough to understand, and that's okay. Like, and I that again goes to intuition. It really does. When one of my children was struggling immensely with anxiety, and I did not fight them on going to school, and their absences were like 30 plus absences and stuff, my intuition said nurture her. Just not, don't try, do not push this. And fast forward, she's one of the bravest, most resilient kids that I know within her school. And it's because I let her figure it out on her own rather than telling her what she needed to take care of herself.
Yeah. And I will say that, the parent with the stuffed animal being lost. So I handled a situation very similar, very differently. And I did whatever I could. We left town. We thought we had Bunny, but Bunny was nowhere to be found when we got there, and we were going to be gone for about 10 days. And Bunny was the only way that my son would sleep, is if he had his Bunny. And so I asked my mom to go get Bunny and FedEx Bunny next day air to us. And so, can I see now that I didn't help? I lost a moment where I could have helped my son understand how to cope with, you don't need Bunny. You have yourself. You have yourself. You don't need Bunny. You can, self nurture, and you have your parents and you have your family, and we all love you, and you don't need Bunny. I was absolutely not exactly a helicopter mom, but I was PTA president for 4 years, and
So
there were,
helicopter mom.
yeah, a little bit, but not too much, because like you, if they said to me, if they woke up one day and said, you know what, I just don't want to go to school. I want to stay home with you and I want to play. They knew my rule was, you can take one day a semester as a wellness day. And that was way before wellness days were a thing. And I was like, no, yeah, we're going to have fun. We're going to play. We're going to go to the park. We're going to go to wherever, the beach. We're just going to, you need a day with us, or to stay home or do your own thing. I'm going to give that to you, as long as it wasn't like a major testing day. And then the rest of
Even then,
it,
I don't care. I'm like, girls, like, because at the end of the day, again, they're responsible. They really are. And more than
I
that,
know, but I
the
wasn't
whole
there yet. I
I
wasn't there yet.
no, I know, I know. And but here's the thing. That's the beauty though too, is we unfold perfectly. So
Yeah.
you met your son in his journey where he needed to be in that
Hmm.
moment. You know what I mean? That I believe to be true too, because all of those moments from then until now have gotten you both to where you are, and where you are is where you're meant to be.
Yeah, yeah. And there's been a lot of ups and downs, but all of those parents out there that are listening to us that may potentially listen to this, just know that you can shift from being that helicopter hover mom parent to allowing your child to actually grow up and be an amazing adult, because you can trust yourself that you taught them what they needed to know, that you exemplified what they needed, and now trust them to implement it, trust them to put it in place. But you got to trust yourself first.
There's two amazing books, and I cannot remember her last name, but Shafali something. It's a conscious parent, the awakened parent and the conscious family, or something. But I definitely recommend those two books for any parent who's looking to do things differently. Interestingly enough, I mean, all of her work is everything you and I say. So it's not going to be a shocker, but it is about the fact that our children are reflections of our internal state. And so,
Yeah.
if I'm ticked off with my daughter over something, instead of reacting, to your point about pausing and taking a moment, you consider what about their behavior is causing you to feel a certain type of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of that is conditioning, is beliefs that have been imbued on you by others, by outside. My daughters, they dress in the most weird clothes. Like, I mean, I remember them being mismatched, looking like whole hot messes. I was not the mom to do their hair. Like, you know, had I not had enough confidence, I would have definitely been like, and I believe this too. I'm like, oh my God, people must think like I'm a horrible mom. My kids are going into school looking like ragamuffins. They literally look like, and that was a belief. I mean, and now I'm like, my kids can show. My daughter wears her belly hanging out all the time. The teachers are constantly saying something to her, but I'm like, they're gonna say something to you. So
Yeah.
you have two choices. You either cover up the belly, or they're gonna suspend you. Like, you make that choice. That is the rule that you have to listen to there. I don't care what you wear. That's just what.
I remember a morning. Oh my gosh. So my son was probably in kindergarten. So we're talking, 30 years ago, uh, to age me. And he never wanted to wake up in the morning. He hated waking up. Lots of kids do that, right? And I had to get Krista right. We had to go, and I was always like, you have to be on time. Like, we're gonna get there on time. Uh and so I was tired of dealing with the morning argument. And I did not, and I still do not believe in uniforms, because that was
Yeah,
always the
no.
easy way out for parents. And I was the PTA mom president that was like, hell no, we won't go. But what I did say to him is, you have a choice. You can either put your clothes on, whatever you decide to wear, or I'm going to take you to school the way you are. But in 5 minutes, we're going to be in the car. So your choice. And he lollygagged around and didn't get dressed. And I picked his little butt up and stuck him in the car. Of course, I had his clothes with me because I knew exactly what was going to happen. And we got to school, and he was just mortified about going in. And I said, your clothes are there. I suggest you get dressed, but you're going to school. And then we didn't argue anymore after
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
the key point was always follow through. If you're going to say something, if you're going to threaten something, if you're going to say this or that, you have to be prepared for the this or that. You can't
Yeah.
just let
Well,
it go.
that is a whole
Huge.
that's a whole nother. I mean, we could do an entire show and then some on I mean, not only is it about what you say and following through, but creating boundaries and following through, right? But it to your point, so my nephew is going to be 1 in April, and he's in this phase where he hits. He's going to be 1. And I'll watch, people say no hit, but then let him hit you. He can't stand me because he'll go to hit me and I'm like, no hit. Go to hit me, no hit. One more time, I'm gonna hold you if you hit. Now he's not even 1. He goes to hit. I hold him. I give him a big bear hug. And his little sister said to me a few days ago, Titi, he's only a baby. I was like, it doesn't matter. If you're not clear, he's going to think it's okay to hit. He just is.
Mhm.
And so you do absolutely have to be clear about what it is you're saying and be willing to stand by that because it does matter. And in fact, I'll even go to say, in corporate America, the biggest thing is the leaders will say one thing and then change it a
Oh
minute
yeah.
later and then change it a minute later. And then people don't feel safe because they don't know
Hmm.
what's expected of them. So you
Right.
have to be very, very, I mean, it goes back to the beginning of this conversation about what, manifesting in our thoughts, creating our reality, but it ties and weaves into everything. If you aren't clear, if you're not staying true to your message, it does create fear
Yeah.
because people don't know what to expect. And then how can they meet performance, expectations or what it is whatever, if
Right.
they don't know because it's constantly changing.
Right. Or they say they want the information, but then they don't do anything with it. That's another one.
Yep.
Or they constantly change, even though things are working, and then they shift just because they had a bright idea. But was it a bright idea for them? Or is it for the betterment of the company? And that's always a question. So, yeah, I mean, it always goes
Well,
back
it
to that.
also goes to mood, and this is why, I
Right.
mean, this is why you know everybody, it's so cliche, but it's 100% true. If you want to heal the world, work on yourself, work on your internal story.
Yeah.
Because if you do not know yourself, then you show up different
Hmm.
depending on whatever you've experienced. So, and I was like this a lot. Oh my God, think about it. If I went and drank 2 bottles of wine at night, the next day I'm going to be a beast at work because I'm
Right.
cranky, I'm irritable, I'm whatever. As
Right.
I started to heal, I was consistent. They got the same Kerri every day, and that is safer. And a lot of people in positions of power don't work on their internal narrative, and as a
Mhm.
result, create a lot of ambiguity amongst their organizations.
Yeah. And they forget who they're serving. And that goes back to ego. We always seem to tie it up.
We do.
We
We're good
always
about
seem to circle back, but it does. It goes back to the ego. Are you doing something because it's what's best for you, because it works for you, because it's comfortable for you? Or are you doing it because you want a better outcome for whoever you're serving or for your employees? Why? What is your why? And I think that leaders forget to ask that. And I think not just leaders, but parents, family members should always remember to go back to the why. Why are you asking someone else to do this? Why are you doing this? And that goes back to intuition and ties that back in too.
Well,
Why?
I
Get
mean, and here's the
curious.
thing. Again, and I always say I have 2 modes. I'm operating from fear or I'm operating from love.
Hmm.
And if you are operating from love, you're not, I mean, even you and I talked about this yesterday. When you're operating from love, it's just an entirely different experience. And I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. I just we live in a very fear-based world, and it is my mission to show up as love, and in doing so show people through who I am and how I exist in this world, that they don't have to do it the way in which everybody's doing it. Because the other thing about love is you're unapologetically authentic in yourself.
Yeah.
You just are. Because if you love yourself so much, you're not going to go along to get along. Now, I was talking to a coach last week who invited me to be with regards to successful entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Their criteria was um how many email subscribers they have. And I was honest. I'm like, I don't know, I have like 160, but if that's your criteria, if that's how you define an
Right.
expert, I want no part of it. I
Yeah.
tap out. Because that to me is not telling me you want experts. You want people's information.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that takes a level of self-love, because here's this person with a huge audience, and I was like, nope. And I'm good with it. I really am, because
Yeah.
I know that as I show up as love, I will receive. And I know that. I really do.
Well,
But
there's
you
a whole feeling about when it comes from love. There's a feeling that comes from you, from anyone that is showing up in love. The other person is going to feel the love. Just like when you walk in a room and confidence comes before you, you can feel someone's energy when they walk in the room. If you're coming in with love, then they're going to feel love. If you're coming in with anger, and we've all been there when we've either walked in somewhere or someone has walked in and they're just full of anger and it's palpable, people will feel your energy, feel the state that you're in. If you're in a state of love, then that's what you're going to put out, and guess what, that's what you're going to get back.
It's true. It's true. I get love all the time.
Yes, you do. And
Oh,
Kerri, speaking of which, and well, first off, does anyone have any questions, comments, ideas, thoughts?
yeah, I never do that, do I?
No, well, and I tried to type it and I misspelled anyone. So Amy won. And Amy won. Have any questions? Since I put an M instead of an N. But we're here. Kerri, where can people find you?
KerriLewis.coach is my website, and Kerri Lewis coach on all social media, I think. But your best bet is to go to my website, because that's where you'll find all those links to social.
It's your one stop
One stop
place,
shopping.
one stop shopping.
Although I did
And
look up, and I'm
yes.
going to get the domain name KerriLewis.love.
Ooh.
It's $10. I'm like, I gotta buy it.
All
I
right,
just have
everybody
to.
out there, don't go and buy it. Shh, it's a secret.
Oh, I don't care. Nope, nope. I know. It's been on my heart for like 6 months. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a domain name. Not that I plan on like changing all my stuff, but I just, for whatever reason, the universe is nudging me.
Well, I'm gonna nudge you and say maybe next week we'll see a different title, even one that feels right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do Kerri Lewis. Even then, I mean, it just I don't have to worry about people figuring out what I do, because the people I'm meant to serve will find me.
Yeah,
It's so true.
very true. Very true. Well, I am mission.
I love her so
I
much.
can be found at mokshagrace.com and on social media under Moksha Grace. And actually, and I don't even know if I told you this, I am running a March special. And, spring is springing and sprunging. And it's also my birthday, so I can do what I want to do. And
You
so, my
can.
gift to whoever is lucky enough, go on my social media, my websites, and you can sign up for a 90-minute session with me. Absolutely. On me, it is a gift because I feel like giving a gift. So it is a 90-minute coaching session. No strings attached, but if you feel inclined, you can absolutely write a review or a testimonial.
Oh, I want to read something to close out if I can find it. Me and my notes, I write a lot. All right, hang on. Okay. You basically, in order to receive, you must give. So I love that you're giving a gift because
Mm-hmm.
when you operate from fear, you
Mm-hmm.
hoard. And when you give,
Yep.
you receive. And it's so funny. Yesterday, I had a woman that I interviewed in my What's Your Story series reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Super appreciative. She's like, I just got a potential client. I have a meeting with this person because of your interview series. And that's exactly why I did it, because my gift to the world is not to be of service to everybody, because I'm not for everybody, but to highlight people so that hopefully we can bridge that gap and people can
Right.
find their right fit. So,
Absolutely, because that's what it's all about, is finding the right fit.
so I love that you're doing that. I highly suggest you guys take Michelle up on her offer if you're looking even just to grow and expand a little bit, or
Mhm.
learn some things about who you are and be held in that time frame. So
Yeah. Some people have never even tried coaching. They have no idea. They're scared to death. Don't be. We're it's just talking,
yeah.
figuring things out.
All
All
right,
right.
until next week, and we never know what the wind will bring us. We will see.